4 people were killed in Kryvyi Rih in the Dnipropetrovsk region after a Russian ballistic missile strike on Wednesday. According to the head of the city's defense council, Alexander Vilkul, as of this morning, the number of injured has increased to 17, 2 children among them. 11 of the wounded were taken to the hospital, including an 8-year-old boy. Russian troops struck a civilian infrastructure facility. According to Vilkul, 9 high-rise residential buildings, as well as a post office and a gas station, were damaged. After the Russian attack on Kryvyi Rih, President Zelenskyy stressed on his X page that anywhere in the world, these strikes would be called the same: terror. The only way to stop this is by applying sufficient pressure on Moscow and the Russian system and force them to abandon the war. US President Trump announced a massive hike in tariffs targeting nearly every country in the world. Speaking in the White House Rose Garden, he stated he was imposing a 10% baseline tariff on all imports to the United States. However, nearly 60 partners, including China and the European Union, who Washington considers to be the worst offenders, will face special reciprocal tariffs.
Starting tomorrow, the United States will implement reciprocal tariffs on other nations. It's been a long time since we even thought of that. We used to think about it a lot. We didn't think about it for many decades, and you see what's happened. For nations that treat us badly, we will calculate the combined rate of all their tariffs, non-monetary barriers, and other forms of cheating. And because we are being very kind, we're kind people, very kind.
These changes will not affect Canada or Mexico. However, Russia, as well as Iran and North Korea, were not mentioned on the list of countries demonstrated by Trump during the press conference. According to the White House, the U.S. will start charging the 10% tariffs from April 5th, with the higher duties for certain nations starting on April 9th. A Ukrainian delegation will travel to the United States in the coming days to discuss a critical minerals agreement, said U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. In an interview with Bloomberg on April 2nd, Bessent mentioned that the U.S. side considers the deal to be ready, while the Ukrainian side has hired a lawyer to oversee the negotiations.
We believe this deal is so important for the American people, for the Ukrainian people, and for the peace process.
On Tuesday, the Ukrainian Minister for Foreign Affairs, Andriy Sybiha, confirmed that Ukraine received a new version of the proposed agreement on mineral resources from the United States. He also added that Kyiv and Washington had already held the first round of consultations on a draft deal. NATO allies have pledged over 20 billion euros in military assistance for Ukraine as the alliance continues to coordinate long-term support amid ongoing security challenges posed by Russia. This was reported by the NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte. Speaking at a press conference at the alliance headquarters in Brussels, he highlighted the importance of continued support, noting that Russia remains a threat and maintains close cooperation with China, Iran, and North Korea.
In the first 3 months of this year, allies have already pledged more than 20 billion euros in security assistance for 2025. And our command in Wiesbaden continues to coordinate the delivery of security assistance and training for Ukraine.
This statement came ahead of a NATO foreign ministers meeting in Brussels on Thursday and Friday to discuss, in particular, further support for Ukraine. Ukrainian defenders repelled a Russian assault near the village of Andriivka in the Donetsk region. Footage was shared by the General Staff of the Armed Forces. It said that Russians decided to use nearly 2 platoons consisting of personnel and armored vehicles. However, Ukrainian soldiers effectively stopped the Russian forces, damaging 12 vehicles and completely destroying 7. The losses of manpower of Russian troops was also confirmed, reported the General Staff. With almost 90% of houses damaged or destroyed and a huge number of explosive devices, this is what the village of Studenok in the Kharkiv region looks like. Although it was liberated from Russian troops in 2022, it's still unsafe for the locals.
During the time that we have been working here, we have detected and destroyed artillery shells, grenade launchers, ammo and grenade rounds, pedal-type anti-personnel mines.
The sappers of the State Emergency Service are inspecting every yard of the village so the locals can safely return home. Their work is complicated due to dense vegetation and destroyed buildings. However, the unit continues to clear the Ukrainian soil meter by meter.
The village is coming back to life. People are coming back. This is our land. We have to clean it up.
Estonia plans to build up to 600 bunkers along its eastern border with Russia, with the first 14 expected for completion by autumn. This was reported by the country's public broadcaster ERR on April 2nd. Engineering designs take into account the experience gained in Ukraine, where bunkers must withstand 152mm shells and special nets stop drones from directly entering the bunker, explained Einar Afanasyev, head of the engineering for the Estonian Defense Forces. The bunker line is reportedly only one part of a much larger defense network. Plans also include installing anti-tank barriers, mines, and explosive charges, and setting up firing positions which will be used in times of crisis, noted Afanasyev. Ukrainian air defense shot down a Russian Shahed drone using a Browning heavy machine gun mounted on an AN/TWQ-1 Avenger air defense system. A video shared by the Air Force's Southern Command was spotted by open-source intelligence analyst OSINT Technical. According to their post on X, this is the first ever footage showing Ukrainian operators using this American Avenger system to shoot down a Russian Shahed drone with a 50 cal M3P Browning machine gun. The Southern Command reported that on the night of April 2nd, mobile fire teams from the Odessa Anti-Aircraft Missile Brigade destroyed 10 Russian drones of various types, including Shahed drones. President Zelenskyy came to the village of Yahidne in the Chernihiv region as Ukraine marks the third year since its liberation from Russian troops. During the Russian occupation, almost all the residents, over 350 people, were held in the school basement for nearly a month. The youngest hostage was a 1.5-month-old infant. Russian forces kept the civilians as a human shield as they set up a command post in the school building. According to locals, in the 27 days of occupation, 10 people died in the basement due to suffocation and lack of medical care, while 17 were executed by Russian troops. Zelenskyy visited the school and paid tribute to all the victims. On his Telegram page, he stated that Yahidne is still recovering from the Russian occupation and the terrible crimes that took place there. Out of 150 damaged and 16 destroyed houses, 56 have been rebuilt, with reconstruction efforts ongoing. The United States has no intention of leaving NATO, stated the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Speaking at a joint press conference with the NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte in Brussels, he stressed, however, that member states must significantly increase their defense spending, up to 5% of GDP.
The events of the last few years, a full-scale ground war in the heart of Europe, is a reminder that hard power is still necessary as a deterrent. And so we do want to leave here with an understanding that we are on a pathway, a realistic pathway, to every single one of the members committing and fulfilling a promise to reach up to 5% of spending. That includes the United States will have to increase its percentage, because if the threats truly are as dire as I believe they are, and the members of this alliance believe they are, then that threat has to be confronted by a full and real commitment to have the capability to confront these things. First visit, I hope it'll be very productive. It will. Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you so much.
At least one European leader should have direct talks with Russia. According to Finnish President Alexander Stubb, this was decided by the members of the Coalition of the Willing, reports the MTV outlet. Stubb believes either France or the United Kingdom should take on the task of speaking directly with the Russian leader, Vladimir Putin, as currently no European leaders from Ukraine's partner nations have any dialogue with him. Denmark has announced a new 25th military aid package to Ukraine worth $970 million. It will provide support to Kyiv through 2025 to 2027, announced the Danish Minister of Defense. According to the statement, the key elements of this package are air defense, artillery, and financial help for the Ukrainian Air Force. The country's Minister of Defense, Troels Lund Poulsen, stated that with the 25th aid package, Copenhagen emphasizes its support for Ukraine in both the short and long term.